Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Aftertaste LA. I'm Nicole,
And I'm Vlad.
and this week we'll be discussing our meal at Alto in Studio City.
One of the reasons we started Aftertaste LA, aside from giving you guys insight into our conversations about our meals that we're having in the city that we love, is we want to give as many tips and tricks as we can to our audience about dining and eating out so that you can elevate your experience as much as you can. You know, if you can only make it to one of these meals a year, you want to make sure that it's as special as it can be. And we want to make sure we give you all the tools to make it as special as it can be. If there are any specific tips or tricks that you guys want, please leave it in the comments and we'll make sure to include it in future episodes.
So, why did we want to go to Alto?
As people who live in the Valley, having a restaurant in the Valley that is fine dining, elevated cuisine, we're starting to see more of it. And I am excited.
Yeah.
So Ventura Boulevard is slowly adding, piece by piece, great restaurants. You have Anajac Thai, Petit Trois, Daisy. Now Alto is open. We were excited to try this out because the story of this restaurant is really cool and unique. There really isn't anything quite like it in LA. So it was a no-brainer. Like, this only opened 28 days ago, less than a month it's been open. We just heard about it immediately. I was like, we have to go.
Yeah. When you suggested it, there was no hesitation.
Yeah. And then you think about the story of the two chefs. One is from Uruguay, one is from Argentina. They've worked at Michelin restaurants all over the world. And they came to LA, to Studio City, to open their first restaurant together, a dream restaurant where they're going to showcase their cultural heritage and their food.
Yes.
What a story.
Yeah. What a cool place, too. They are also, I think, grabbing this moment of people's interest in cooking over like live fire, like on a grill, even inside, which I think is so cool. So I'm hoping that is going to go well for them.
You know, we're starting to see more restaurants go that route. Smaller menus, cooked over live fire, not this big tasting menu thing. Because from the surface, when you read about the two chefs and you read about the type of restaurant they're trying to do, you immediately think this is going to be like a tasting menu place. They're going for Michelin stars. I do think they are going for Michelin stars. They want to be recognized, but the food and what they're cooking seems so much more pure and like they really want to showcase what their culture eats.
Yeah. And they did mention during our meal that an omakase is in the works, which I actually think is really smart, having this menu right now, which is a la carte, working out some of the kinks that just come with a new place, and then growing into that kind of tasting menu format, I think is really a good idea.
You know, yeah, if they want to offer both and kind of take people through this journey of the cuisine, it would be really smart. So I could see that in the future. This restaurant, they are saying this is the first restaurant in LA that's doing this type of cuisine. There aren't really a Uruguay, Argentinian, or Rio de las Platas restaurant anywhere here. It was very new to us. We had to do a bunch of research to figure out what that was before we even went to the restaurant. So let me give the listeners a small history lesson on what we've learned. Uruguay and Argentina are divided by this estuary, two rivers, and they called it the Rio de las Platas because there was a bunch of silver there and Spanish colonialists wanted it. That brings a lot of influence from Europe, food, ingredients, and then they have their own indigenous ingredients, and that combination has created this cuisine that's shared between these two countries. There's a lot of similarities, and it's just like a really old school way of cooking, meat over fire, gaucho cowboy culture. They treat the vegetables the same way. They're, throwing whole vegetables in embers and roasting them that way. And the flavors you get from cooking in that way are so much more powerful. You know, you're doing less to the ingredients and you're letting them shine.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
I also think it's super cool that it is a chef duo with a man and a woman. It's awesome. I like the teamwork. They seem really in sync, with one of the chefs more in the back and one of them more in the front. Our server was telling us that one of the chefs actually did the design for the interior.
Yeah.
And I
Which
just
is
think
crazy.
I just think it's great.
Yeah, they seem like they are a great team. They've worked together for years. They've worked at some of the best restaurants in the world together. So they gotta, you know, have a good rapport to want to do this. They know how to run a really good restaurant. They've seen what it looks like. So it was really cool to kind of learn about all these things. And the fact that they, you know, one is from Argentina and one is from Uruguay, so they can combine, you know, whatever recipes that they grew up with eating and bring that to the table. I think it's invaluable. One thing we did learn was the pronunciation of a lot of the stuff on the menu was quite a challenge. So if we butcher anything and you are Uruguayan or Argentinian or listening, we're sorry. It was a challenge. We even talked to the server and he said it took him a full 2 weeks to learn how to pronounce everything. The whole staff went to this training. And the language spoken in this region is Spanish, but the local Rio de la Platanese dialect is different. So the double L's, they're not like you know, EO sound. They have like a cho sound. So it was there's a lot of stuff like if you speak Spanish, you won't be able to pronounce these that well either. In fact, it'll probably be more challenging because you're so used to your dialect.
Yeah, we learned what we could in our brief meal.
Yeah, we're gonna do our best. We're gonna do our best.
I thought the design of this restaurant was one of its really strong points, and I think that's all the more impressive because it's one of the chefs who was overseeing that. It had a lot of nice dark wood accents and elements. It definitely reminded me of old school, like 20s Mexican or South American architecture inside. For example, behind where you were sitting, they had this like well, I guess it's a decorative well, but they use it to keep wine and waters cold, which is really smart. But it definitely had that like old world feel, kind of definitely brought me to a place. And then in the very back of the dining room, you have the live fire grill and oven. So you're able to see that your entire meal. And it just looks very nice and like warm and cozy back there. A lot of like nice light coming off that fire.
Yeah, I thought the place was really elegant. It was dark, it was moody. It was, you know, it felt like date night. It felt very comfortable. You know, it felt inviting. Very, very inviting. I loved the patterns on the walls, kind of looked like it was burnt, you know, to go in line with the hearth that they have. The dining room itself is quite narrow and long, elongated. But the open kitchen, there's like a few steps that you have to go down. So if you're sitting behind that, you're kind of perched above it and it's like a show. You can, any seat in this house, you can probably see the fire going, which is a great thing.
And my very favorite part of this dining room was there was sound dampening panels above all of the tables wherever possible. Thank you. Thank you. Truly, thank you. And it's not like it was quiet as a church in there.
No, it was
like
it was
it
loud.
was normal, kind of felt normal, but it didn't have that echoing thing that you can get in some restaurants where one voice becomes five because it's bouncing off all of the hard surfaces. So I thought that was awesome. And when it's full in there, that's going to be a lifesaver because I think it would be very loud without that.
Well, we could hear everything we had to say to each other. We didn't have to shout at each other. I can hear the server can hear us. All of these things really, really matter to the overall comfort of your experience. It takes away stresses and like outside stimuli.
Yeah, and I think it makes it more intimate too.
Yeah, I agree. It was quite an intimate space. It felt really nice.
Yes,
Definitely big date night vibes.
definitely, definitely.
Romantic,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, in the best way.
Absolutely. And we love a romantic dinner.
Yeah, who
We just
doesn't?
happen to do it a lot more often than most people. I have a few other things I wanted to add about what they've done with this dining room to increase our comfort
Mm.
and the overall hospitality experience. That well that you mentioned, it is literally a well. Looks like a well. They keep their wines that are by the glass and their sparkling and still waters there so they can easily refill any table quickly and seamlessly without having to, scurry off in the back. It helps the flow of service. They did this by sacrificing seats. They well was right behind us. They could have easily put another table and maybe another table behind that one and added 4 seats. They're sacrificing profits for hospitality, and that's a huge green flag for me.
You can't put a price on that. Those are the kinds of things that would make me want to go back very badly.
Yeah.
So I think in the long run, it works out better for them.
Another thing that they did, they have these tables that they're using to either drop drinks on or if they're clearing plates, just kind of utility tables for the servers. But they've put these kind of lambskin little throws on them so that every time they set down a plate or a glass, there isn't a clank or an added noise and kind of a stimuli that is off putting when you're trying to have a nice, conversation, hopefully romantic.
Yeah.
You don't want to be disturbed by, clanking plates and like the ASMR of a restaurant. That's the one place you don't really want ASMR. The seats also, I thought the seats were pretty comfortable.
Yeah, they were.
The bathrooms had Aesop soap, which I always appreciate. I think having a fine quality soap in a bathroom is a small gesture that they don't have to do, but the restaurants that do it, you really notice.
I think it's a good soap for restaurants too, because I don't find that the scent clings to my hands.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, we'll talk about the empanada we had. You don't want to be smelling like whatever floral, lavender or something
Yeah.
when you're trying to enjoy something by hand.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah. And you love that soap.
Yeah. Another thing that was cool in the dining room was the wine cellar. You could see it through the glass. They have quite a collection. And the way that they designed the space, if you're like on your way to the bathroom, you can kind of see that bar area that's really cool. You could see the wine. It's a fun little trip to the bathroom.
I loved the layout of this whole place.
Big place, a lot of seats. For the kind of food they're serving at the level that they're trying to serve it at, this is ambitious.
Yes, it is. I really hope they can fill the seats though. Like, it would just be such a wonderful resource for so many people here in the Valley.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all for more great restaurants on Ventura Boulevard.
So I want to talk about the drinks menu.
Let's do it.
It looks pretty intimidating because it is several pages, but when you actually look at it and you see the sections that it's divided into, it's actually a little bit less intimidating than it first seems. So on the first page, you have non-alcoholic drinks, as well as low ABV, which includes sangria and wine cocktails, as well as a small section for vermouths, which we will talk a little bit more about later. And then the second and third pages are specialty cocktails and classic cocktails, respectively. And this menu is really a choose your own adventure. There are several different routes you could go that would pair excellently with the meal. So, whatever your kind of pleasure is in this space, you can have it here.
They also have a pretty expansive wine list. 'Cause we mentioned earlier about their huge wine cellar that we saw. They're saying it's the largest South American wine cellar in Los Angeles. They have a lot of rare vintages and bottles that aren't in production anymore, just really unique options. If you're a wine enthusiast, I think you're going to have a lot of fun with this menu. I think you're going to see a lot of stuff you've never seen before and might not ever be able to try again. And I think that's really cool what they've done.
Yeah, it looks really exciting.
And it falls in line with the food they're trying to do, which is Argentinian and Uruguayan. They're also serving wine from that region. They're keeping everything to that metric.
So we started our meal with these complimentary welcome drinks, which were 2 of their vermouths. And these were to celebrate their opening, since they'd only been open for 1 month to the day that we went. So we had a white Albarino, which was a Uruguayan vermouth, as well as a red Nebbiolo vermouth from Italy. And I really liked both of these. I thought they were both really fantastic.
Yeah, I really loved the Albarino, the white with the lemon verbena. It was a little bit sweet, a little bit bitter, extremely floral and fragrant, and just a really great, perfect drink to start your meal with.
Yes. And something else I liked about these, they were served over ice. And it was just really refreshing, especially in a restaurant that has a big fire in the back. So it felt really nice and relaxing when you sat down. Vermouth hour is a thing in Argentina. So we were being treated to a little glimpse of what that is like. And it's really nice.
Yeah, this was such a great start. You don't think of having like an appetizer drink. That's what this was. Like if this was on the appetizers menu of a drinks menu, this is what it is. You have it before you start eating. It gets you hungry. It gets you excited. It opens up your palate.
The red one was really lovely as well. It was a pomegranate and basil, but I thought it was definitely on a little bit on the drier side, especially compared to the Albarino. But it tasted kind of jammy, kind of like some currants and raisins vibes to it. Just really warmed me from the inside.
Very refreshing. The ice really helped a lot. I think most people's understanding, at least in this country, of vermouth is it's what you put in a martini or it's what you put in a Negroni or a Manhattan. It's not really drank on the rocks, no one's drinking a vermouth. But in Italy and in Spain and in Argentina, that's what people are drinking. They love it. It is fortified wine. They put a little booze in it. They put a bunch of botanicals in it. That's what vermouth is.
We did order some cocktails, as we are wont to do. We started with a Nunca es Suficiente, which is Bombay Sapphire macerated in yerba mate, basil, cardamom, clarified lemon, and white pet nat. This came in a special glass that was custom made for this cocktail, and it came with a special presentation, which was a bubble of this clarified lemon vapor, and it was really cool. So when they brought it, they said you have to pop it with your nose. So that's what I did. And when I did, all the vapor came out and it was around my nose, around my face. I was really in it. But it also served to kind of infuse the top layer of the cocktail with those flavors. So we were actually tasting it throughout, not just at the beginning. I really loved this presentation. I thought it was interesting and fun. It was interactive, but it wasn't showy and flashy. And my favorite part is what was inside the bubble added to the cocktail. Made my enjoyment of the cocktail much more. It was an essential ingredient, which a lot of times you'll have something like that, but it's really more for the show than for the substance. I thought it was really smart.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with everything you just said. I thought the cup was awesome. It made me feel like Prince Oberyn and Dorne. The cup, too, the way they designed this cup, I was sharing this drink with you, and I took a sip of it when you was already halfway done, and I could still have, that smoke essence clinged to the edges of the cup because the ceramic that they used, it wasn't glass, so it really sticks more to it.
Just to describe it, in case you're not looking at the screen or you're listening, it was chalice-shaped, I would say, but kind of thinly shaped ceramic. So, it had the curved sides of a chalice and the big base, so it wasn't going to tip over, but a thin stem like a wine glass, but all of it was this black ceramic.
Yeah, it was like a goblet.
Yeah, and it had really good weight to it.
Yeah. This is one of those things, a lot of stuff for this restaurant was custom made, including this glass. The server said they already broke 2. I do not want to know how much each one of these glasses cost this restaurant. But if you drop this thing, you're dropping this handmade, beautiful cup that you feel powerful drinking out of.
Yeah.
And it was a tasty drink. It was a little bit fizzy from the Pet Nat, which I believe is a champagne or sparkling wine.
Champagne style wine.
Yeah. It was lovely. It was sweet. It was refreshing. They're having fun with these specials. And the specials menu, our server told us, a lot of these drinks take 1 to 2 full days to create because of the macerations and shrubs and preparations they're doing to the liquor, to the ingredients, infusing fruit and vegetables and herbs and scents and aromas. So they're really dedicating their time to the beverages as much as they are to the food. The next cocktail we had, the Jardin de Altura, which was tequila Altos infused with fig leaves, orange liqueur, magnolia flower nectar, herb oil, and corn salt. What a mouthful. You can't even picture what this tastes like from that description, right? You have no idea what you're going to be walking into. It kind of reminded me of a margarita. It had that, I guess from the orange liqueur, it had a little bit of margarita, like that triple sec, Cointreau type of flavor to it. The corn salt actually tasted like corn.
It did. I loved it. And I really appreciated that it was those very, very, very small salt granules versus the huge salt that you get on the rim of a glass at a Chili's or something.
Yeah, it wasn't off-putting at all.
Oh, it was fantastic.
Oftentimes you see corn dust or corn husk or these salts or things with corn, and they kind of taste like nothing. They kind of just become powder in your mouth. This really tasted like the corn, and it added to the drink really, really well. And I appreciated that a lot. They delivered on what they promised. Also, seeing magnolia on a menu, really rare.
Yes.
I never see that on a menu, or fig leaf.
I was very excited about the magnolia, especially I follow an expert in foraging on Instagram. Shout out to Alexis Nicole, handle Black Forager. She did a whole video about how to cook with magnolia flower. And my parents have magnolias in their front yard. We have one down the street on our block, and I had no idea it was edible at all. So that was really exciting to see on this menu because I haven't come across it in the restaurant sphere. And then the fig leaf, I've actually been seeing that much, much more very recently, literally in the last month or 2. All of a sudden, it's just kind of everywhere. So the server was saying they are kind of trying to make those specialty cocktails of the moment and incorporating that with their Argentinian and Uruguayan flavors as well.
Yeah, and it is fig season right now. I think we're September, October. The figs are good, so it makes sense to have it. I don't know if I would be cooking with any magnolia from our street. The smog magnolias are probably not edible. But I hope the ones they're using are not the ones from our street.
I was not suggesting we should go pick some.
No, I think I'll just go to Alto and have this instead. Yeah. This was, I think, my favorite of the 2 special cocktails that we ordered. I just thought the flavors were more for me. I thought they were both delicious, so I can't say this is the better of the 2. This is just the one that I preferred to drink of the 2 that we had. They were both fantastic drinks that anyone would enjoy if they are into the liquors and flavors that are into this. Yeah, very well balanced.
Yeah.
Very well balanced. Would order again.
So for our next round, which we had with the mains, which we'll get to later, we had the sangria, which is the fruit is pears and they're infused with a Tannat wine. And I found this really nice and cool and refreshing. It was exactly what I needed about midpoint of the meal. I was feeling a little warm from the fire. And the other thing I want to mention, the flavor was delicious. And I'll talk about that in a sec. I loved the ice for this.
Mm-hmm.
It was the perfect size. It was a square cube. And it wasn't small like pebble ice, and it wasn't big like a normal ice cube. It was just the right size.
Yeah.
And it melted at the right rate. I felt like my drink was nice and cooled, but it wasn't, watered down from the ice. Well done. That attention to detail, I really appreciate.
You're very particular about your ice.
I am, yeah. I think anyone who's interested in mixing drinks would be.
Yeah? Why is that?
Because it changes the flavor of the cocktail. It's an ingredient.
Okay. Touche. Menu itself, it's called Damajuanas. That's their version of sangria because it's not from Spain sangria. It's their version, a lot of Basque influence in this menu and in this culture. It's for two. You order it, 2 big glasses of it come, they pour it in a pitcher. And I appreciate that they pre-infuse the drink so you don't have all these like bits of fruit that you have to scoop out. They give you one on top to try and see, but that's really not my favorite part of that sangria. It had vodka in it. It didn't taste like there was any vodka in it at all, but it definitely packed a punch. It was cool and refreshing. So one of the sections of the menu was the Clásicos Rio Platanes. I hope I pronounced that right. I probably did not. But it's their classic Rio de la Plata drinks section. Really cool thing they did with this section, they put the date that the drink was invented next to it, and they start from the oldest to the youngest, which I thought was really cool. They are really trying to educate us, the diners, about what they're trying to bring. Really cool. I didn't know that Uruguay and Argentina were this like huge drinking culture like this, and the research for this episode, it was really illuminating. And one illuminating fact that I found out has to do with the drink that I ordered, which was the Fernandito. A Fernandito is Fernet Branca and Coca-Cola. 1 part Fernet, 3 parts Coke. This is the national drink of Argentina, the most popular thing they drink there. It is so popular that Argentina consumes 75% of the world's Fernet. 75% of the world's Fernet is consumed in Argentina, and the other 25% is consumed by line cooks and servers who just finished a Saturday night shift. If you are one of those people, Argentina might be the next travel destination for you.
I knew it was going to be high. I just didn't think it would be that high.
75%. The Fernandito drink, the marketing, Fernet named it that.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of this playful name. Everyone orders it.
It's like an Aperol Spritz.
It's their Aperol Spritz.
It's their Aperol Spritz.
Yeah. It was the perfect after dinner drink. If you love Fernet or if you love Amaros and you just ate a bunch of meat like we did, meat and bread, this was a great little, digestif. So the food at Alto, they have it broken down into a couple of sections. First, they have their breads. Everything is made in house. Everything here is made in house. Nothing is forgotten about here and a throwaway. But they have their breads, their little appetizers, and then the entrees. All the entrees are cooked over their wood fire, and they're meat entrees. But then they have a vegetable next to each meat entree. And I don't think I've ever seen a restaurant do this, but it's so brilliant. They have put the vegetable dish that they think pairs the best with each corresponding meat. So on the left side, you have the meat. On the right side, you have the vegetable. You're encouraged to order them together. That's going to drive your sales. It's going to make people order more vegetables, which keeps costs a little bit lower. But it's also saying a lot. It's saying, we really put a lot of thought and care into these vegetables. We want you to treat them as importantly as we do. And we want you to experience them as we are intending you to experience them with the meat, which is really the star of the show here. I think throughout this menu, they are doing the task of educating us about the cuisine of Rio de la Plata. And I feel a lot more aware and educated after this meal was over than I did when it started. We did do a lot of research, so that is helpful. But if you've never had Uruguayan food or Argentinian food and you want to experience what it's all about, this is a great place to go for that. Let's just get right into it. The first bread we had, I'm going to pronounce it the Criollo.
Yeah.
But it's spelled, you would think you'd pronounce it Criollo.
Or Criollo.
Or Criollo, because of the double L thing.
Yeah.
But it's Criollo, and it comes with herb butter. This is definitely the Instagram, TikTok bread that they have on the menu. It's got like, that like layered look.
It looks like a jumbo version of a square of puff pastry once you cook it.
Yeah, croissant-like.
But thicker. Everything's just a bit thicker.
And the perfect amount of brown where it's just on the edge of it might be burnt, but it's not burnt at all. And the crispness of the outside of this bread was perfection because the middle was so soft and so fragrant and like mildly yeasty in like a brioche kind of way. Gorgeous. You peel it apart. We were doing like 3 layers, 4 layers at a time. You're instructed to kind of just start peeling off layers of it, which is a really fun way to eat bread. I'd never experienced that. I want to talk about these butter knives that we were given for this bread. These were so cool. I've never seen a butter knife quite like this. They stood up. They were made out of wood. They're definitely custom made for this place. But one of the annoying parts about a butter knife, when you're smearing the butter, now you kind of have this dirty butter knife and you might like smear on the plate. So you just like stand it up.
This one, because it has a flat bottom.
Yeah, the flat base.
So it's made of wood, but it's like a cylinder where you hold it. And then it becomes the flat blade of the butter knife. So that cylinder, the end of it, just stands up so nicely.
It looked so silly.
It really did.
But in like a fun way. And as soon as you were done using it, like, wow, that's brilliant. This is great. The plating on these breads were great. The butter was plated on these kind of like wooden planks with ridges on them. It was just, everything felt very rustic and elegant at the same time. It was perfection. What were your thoughts on this bread?
I loved it. I just loved it so much. It smelled amazing. Like, it had all those good bread smells, and it was fun to eat. I love to peel things. Like, I peel my cinnamon rolls to get to the center, and it kind of had that kind of feeling to it. I love that soft center, but, I also love the edges, which were very crispy, like you were saying.
There's one top and one bottom, and whether you're a top person or a bottom person, you're going to be happy with the crispness level of this bread.
Tops and bottoms will both be happy. You heard it here first.
I also respect the amount of butter they give you. It was, it doesn't look like it's a whole lot, but you realize how deep the butter well goes. And you don't have to sacrifice or start to like try to conserve your butter with each piece. Because sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I don't know if I have enough butter to make it with the amount of butter that I want with each bite. And I never felt that way with both bread dishes. They both came with the butter, but it was the proper amount of butter. The herb butter was very nice. It almost kind of reminded me of like, garlic butter on garlic bread. It had a similar flavor profile for me. And it brought me right back to New Jersey.
The one small nitpick that I have with this bread and butter, I wanted a little bit more salt in the butter, whether that's in the butter or maybe just some flaky sea salt on the side. I thought that would have been nice to just kind of balance out the butter flavor.
Okay.
But, wow, that bread itself, so good.
I'm ordering that every time we go. There's no question. But I want my own for myself. You're going to have to get your own.
Okay. Right. So the second bread we have was called Chipa. And it came with tomato butter, which I didn't really know what to expect. Never seen that before on a menu. But going back to the bread, it is a tapioca cheesy bread. And it looked just like kind of a regular round bun-sized bread with some crispy cheese on top. They told us that we should rip it apart and then eat it. Very interactive with your hands, like a lot of this meal was. So when you break it open, it has this like melt in your mouth, gooey interior with the cheese flavor. And then there's some crispness from the cheese that was on top that got a little burnt in the oven.
This tastes like pizza. It was cheesy bread with tomato butter, and it really tasted like pizza. The tomato butter was really beautifully presented with, I believe it was buckwheat surrounding it. It was kind of like crusted in this crispy, tender buckwheat. And it was really, really nice, really, really tart. And the cheesy bread was also a bit on the sour side and salty. So it just like really got your taste buds going. And it was a great appetizer. It made me appetized. One thing I learned from my time working for Chef Ludo at Petit Trois, add more butter. Always add more butter. You can never go wrong. You got to go in, and that's why they give you enough butter.
Yeah.
You got to just go in. This cheesy bread was amazing. I could eat 2 of these, 3 of these, no problem. So the next dish we had was the burnt avocado salad. It had arugula, frisee, candy mired lemon, some crispy shallots. The avocado itself, the way that they've burnt it, and we were speaking to the server about this, someone in the morning stands there with a torch and really, really slowly torches the outside of this avocado. By the end of it, it looks like the outside of the skin of an avocado. It looks like an avocado that hasn't been opened yet, which was a really cool effect. It looked really, really cool. The flavor on the salad, unfortunately, because of the dressing, the Meyer lemon was not strong enough to hold up the bitterness and the richness and creaminess of the avocado and the lettuce.
Well,
it needs punch.
It's a candied. I was confused why it was candied.
They wanted the sweetness to balance the bitterness of the arugula and the richness. So they're using sweet as their kind of anchor here. I think you need more acid to be able to hold up to all of these ingredients. And look, they've just opened up. They're going to get feedback. I imagine a few people are going to say this was a little too sweet or it didn't have enough dressing. I think they just need to work on it a little bit. I think they need to make it a little bit more intense. They need to give it some like lemon dressing, some citrus, some punch.
Honestly, with an addition of acid, I would say it would be a pretty great salad. You have some fat from the avocado.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have these nice bitter greens that were very nice, very crisp, tasted good.
Mm-hmm.
Just needs that acid to balance everything out.
There's so many other things on this menu that are great. For me, unless you really want to try it and see the burnt avocado thing and love avocado, then order it. But for us, I thought it was a little bit of a miss. We'd skip it next time.
Next, we had the OG Empanada, and that's what it calls it on the menu.
Yeah.
And so we asked, why is this one the OG? And they said, where the chefs come from, their moms make it a certain way. It's what they grew up with. And for this dish, this is the only dish that uses meat that is actually flown here from Argentina. So it's very authentic in that way. So the beef used in these empanadas are braised for 2 hours. The dough is made in-house, and the chef himself likes to be the one to put them into their little purses. And he was also the one who presented it to us. It's also served with chawa sauce, which was a grated tomato. It's not really a salsa. It's also not a tomato sauce. It was kind of its own thing, a little bit of acid in there. And what I loved about this sauce was it was served in the smartest bowl I've ever seen, which is engineered to be poured straight on your empanada without a spoon, which makes so much sense for a food that is handheld. You don't have your hands to pick up a spoon. It's just doing too many things. I kind of felt like, when you go to the taco truck and you get those tiny little
little sauce cups.
The yellow little sauce cups, and you fill them with salsa, and then you're sitting at the table doing exactly that, and taking a bite and putting sauce on and taking a bite. That's exactly what it was, but an elevated version of that.
Yeah, this plate did that.
Yeah, it was like an oyster-shaped little bowl. So it had its own little pour spout, and it was just so clever.
First of all, you said he came out to explain the empanada to us. Let me preface this. He came out to every table that ordered the empanada. He is hand delivering every empanada. He is hand making every empanada. When he came to the table, he said, "This is my baby. No one touches these empanadas but him." It's probably his mom's recipe or his grandma's recipe. And it's the thing that he is so proud of and so excited to talk about. It got me excited. It was a delicious empanada. The dough was perfect and soft, really charred on the outside. The meat filling was extremely flavorful, tender. The grated tomato very much reminded me of the same tomato that you would put on a pan con tomate in Spain and in Basque culture. That's kind of where you're seeing some of that influence again. It was delicious. It was a little bit small. I think next time I'd want my own. We were worried we would order too much food, which we did. And splitting one was great, but it's really something you want for yourself. And the server did tell us that. We didn't heed his warnings. Next time I'll get a whole one for myself. It was delicious. Plus, you get the chef to come to your table. It almost guarantees that the chef is coming to your table.
Yeah.
So you always want to try. He seemed so happy.
Yeah.
So excited and just really excited for you to be trying his thing that he really put his heart and his soul into it. It really makes it so much more of an elevated experience to see that from the team. So moving on to the mains, the two meats we had were the Asado Banderita and the pork chuleta. First one, the Asado Banderita, was a bone-in short rib, and the way the cut is very similar to what you would see in like a KBBQ spot. The Kalbi rib, the long with 3 bones, except this one was like much thicker and actually steak-like. We got 2 big pieces of them, very simply grilled over the wood fire with just a little bit of salt. These I thought were good. I thought the beef flavor was really, really good, and it was meaty and unctuous. The fat was rendered properly. It was kind of medium rare, medium in the middle. They did not ask us how we wanted it prepared. This is how they serve it. And it did have a lot more chew compared to, something like a filet mignon or a ribeye that's going to be a little bit more tender. It is short rib. They're not braising it. They're grilling it traditionally. I think that this piece needed a little bit more char for me. I thought that it was treated really delicately, and I think I wanted it to be a little bit more aggressive with the amount of char and crust that was on the steak. Kind of difficult with how thick the steak is to keep it medium rare and achieve that char. Requires you to have a lot of control over your fire, your coals. It's only been about a month. These cooks are still kind of learning how to use the fire and work with this grill. It's a brand new grill, so it's just going to require a little bit of practice. I think that if this had a little bit more char on it, I would have liked it more. I'm not saying it's bad, but it has room for improvement.
Yeah, I agree. That's also what I put in my notes. In a city filled with KBBQ short rib, I guess that is kind of more like what I'm expecting. And the thing is, the KBBQ short ribs are always so flavorful and have such a great char on them. It's really what I was looking for.
Yeah, the advantage the KBBQ spots have is the marinades they use really tenderize the short ribs, so they're good over grilled. This is a lot more challenging. They're dry aging it, so that does give you a little bit more of a natural tenderness at times, and it is a really delicious piece of beef.
Yeah, and the dry age, you can taste it. It's a little bit deeper, a little bit, funkier.
Yeah, a little touch of the wood fire on there, smoky, but again, I like a little bit more char, I like a little bit more crust on a wood-fired piece of meat, especially with some of the other places. Like when we went to Dunsmore, like that steak had a huge crust. That was a much bigger steak, so it's easier to achieve that crust. It's going to be more challenging for them, but I think they can improve on it. If I'm coming back with a group of friends, I'm getting this. You cut each piece in half. That's 4 even pieces for everyone to have a little taste of it. And, we're going to get some of the other meats. It's a great thing to share, and it's short rib. It's unctuous. It's delicious. Could it have been executed better? Sure. The thing is, the other piece of meat was so much better than the short rib that it kind of made me like, this is what I wanted the short rib to taste like. That smoke, that fire, that like reminds me of the kind of cooking that they're wanting to showcase.
Mm-hmm.
So this pork chuleta, 12-ounce, dry aged in-house, Peds and Barnett pork chop. Any restaurant that's serving a bone-in pork chop, they're serving Peds and Barnett pork chop. Their pork is better than the other pork around. It's just that simple. So this pork chop, applewood smoked, and then they wrap it in kombu, and they roast it. And this pork chop came out. Everything here, like the meat-wise, you're getting the meat on the plate. It's very like steakhouse-like, where they're not really doing a whole lot. They did leave the kombu on the pork chop, but you don't eat it. It's just for the aroma and a little bit of the flavor. The pork chop was delicious. The flavor on the applewood smoke was bacon-like, and the kombu, you could smell the dashi scent on the pork. It was really, really mellow, but meaty and delicious. Perfectly seasoned, perfectly juicy. 10 out of 10.
Yeah, this was a really impressive piece of meat. This was an example of taking an ingredient, but it's also the main thing, and just elevating it as itself to the pinnacle of what it can be.
I think anyone that comes to eat here, if you eat pork, should definitely order this. And the other great part about this pork chop is how well it paired with the vegetable that they suggested we pair it with, which was the beetroot.
Yes. So these beetroots are slowly cooked for 12 hours, and then they have a beetroot glaze foam that it's covered in. So you have beets kind of 2 ways. And,
well, 3 ways, really.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry. Beets 3 ways. And they're all, wow. I was floored. These are the best beets I've had in America. They are my number 2 beets of all time. Number 1 is Bar in Copenhagen. These beets were incredible. They were still a little bit earthy, but it was very subtle. Mostly they were just sweet and flavorful, a little bit sour, but in a really pleasant way. And then you had the glaze and the foam on top, which, first of all, presentation-wise, it blew my mind. It has, of course, it has the beautiful beetroot color. So it's this pinkish red, and it's so deep. And then it was kind of bubbly from the foam, and it kind of almost made it look like it had eyes that were looking at you. It kind of looked like an alien food that you'd see on Star Trek.
Yeah, very sci-fi. Just a cool dish. It shows the range, it shows the kind of avant-garde cooking experience that the chefs have, cooking at all these fancy restaurants, with the foam element and the puree. Like, they're doing beets a few ways, taking it to the level. And the way that they cook the beet, like any root vegetable, this is one of my favorite ways to cook a root vegetable. They literally just bury it in the embers and the coals and let it cook slowly. The skin protects it. The inside steams itself. The sugars kind of baste itself. You're really getting the most beet-flavored beet you can achieve by doing that. It was fantastic. And with the pork, so they had this like beet puree along with the glaze, and I was taking the pork and I was kind of smearing the puree on it. It paired so well. It was sweet, savory, almost meaty. This is not unlike a dish that you would see in like a 2 or 3 Michelin star restaurant as far as the execution, the presentation, the overall depth of flavors and showcase of an ingredient in multiple ways. I think that this is a very impressive dish.
So another one of the sides that we had were the potatoes, which are riscaldo style, and they had potato foam and crispy fried potato curls and black lime. And chef, I was hoping you could explain a couple of those terms for us. What is a riscaldo and what is black lime?
Like I was talking about the beetroot before, riscaldo is literally, cooking in embers, burying it in the embers. So you could take pretty much any vegetable that has a skin, preferably a thick skin, and bury it in coals and wait a few hours. Peel out the outside. The inside is going to be steamy, delicious, fragrant. It kind of locks in all the flavor because it gets burnt and gets this kind of crust. So that there's whole potatoes in this dish that were cooked in this manner. Black lime is that you take limes and dehydrate them for a really, really long time. Before we had dehydrators, they would just leave them out in the sun to like dry out, and they literally turn black and hard. And you can puree them into a powder, and that powder is really tart and really flavorful. It's really prominent in South American cuisine, Mexican cuisine, and Middle Eastern cuisine also uses a lot of black lime.
This dish
Mm-hmm.
was a miss for me.
Yep.
I found that the foam was quite sour in kind of an unpleasant way, and the texture was not to my liking either. I did take a big spoonful, so I got a few of the riscaldo potatoes that were on the bottom under the foam, but unfortunately, it was just so much foam, I couldn't enjoy them separately.
I love the idea and the concept of this dish, and I know what they were going for, but the execution is what made it fail, not necessarily the technique or the flavor profile. I thought the potatoes tasted great. The foam was gummy and it felt like it was overworked. Whoever made it didn't get the ratios right. I've worked for Jose Andres. He had a potato foam dish on the menu. It was a lot different than this, but the foam itself is the thing that I remember the most. It was super light and super airy, which is what this was meant to be. It's supposed to be light and like a cloud. And it coats the potatoes on the bottom. You have the crispy. They're doing the same thing as the beet dish, where they're doing 3 or 4 different preparations of the potato, and they just didn't nail all of them like they did with the beet. I think if they play around with this for next month, make the foam a little bit lighter, make the crispies a little bit more crispy. I thought that I would prefer like either matchsticks or like a brunoise crispy potato for that kind of fried potato element that they're looking for, because these were a little bit too thin. They looked really cool. Like they were really great for the presentation, but they were a little bit difficult to eat because they were super long. If they refine some of these little elements that, this is only a 30-day restaurant. They have, I'm sure, other guests that maybe have felt similarly to us. They're going to make adjustments. And I think it's an easy one. It could be the person who made the foam tonight didn't do it right because they're putting it in a whipped cream canister. There's a whole process there. A lot of things can go wrong in this process. It's not like making a thing of mashed potatoes. So technically difficult, and they didn't nail it.
So the last side that we had were the peppers, which are confit for 5 hours in the charcoal oven. I really like these.
Mm-hmm.
In my brain, my only first thought was, wow, this is the flavor of bread.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the flavor was so deep, and it had almost like the ghost of acid because they'd been confit for so long. They're very sweet at the end of that, but it retains just a hit of that acid from the original raw pepper, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah, I really love the peppers. It really reminded me of piquillo peppers, so like in Basque cooking and Spanish cooking. Similarly, I've had these prepared working for Jose Andres. Piquillo peppers were on the menu. It was a very kind of similar preparation they've done here. So everything felt familiar to me. It was really rustic and executed well. I was dipping the short rib in the piquillo oil. That was delicious. And they're great. Very tart, very flavorful, very red. I would order these again. I think they're a really great thing to have on the table. So that was all for the main courses. We did get a couple of desserts. We ordered two. We ordered the souffle, the ode to DDL, which is dulce de leche. There was another dessert that we didn't order that we were thinking about. It was a chocolate sabayon. They also had this chiffon cake type dessert, and then the strawberries and smoked cream. So we got the souffle and we got the strawberries and smoked cream.
And I noted on the menu, they also have a dessert cocktail as well as dessert wines, which is really nice, and a tea cart that they will take to your table for tea service. They also have espresso and cortado, which they do have in decaf, which I was very thankful for. And the blend that they use is especially made for them by a local coffee roaster, Ladry. And this one that we had last night was a seasonal blend from Brazil and Guatemala.
Yeah, it was nice.
Mm-hmm.
The strawberry dessert that we ordered with the smoked cream and white chocolate twirls was the first night they were serving it. Brand new dessert. The dessert came in a champagne coupe with a bunch of strawberries on the bottom and like a huge amount of cream and some white chocolate. And we didn't have any share plates, but even if we did, it was really difficult to eat it without spilling it all over.
I wrote that the strawberries were jumping overboard because that's what it felt like.
Yeah, and this is kind of a nice, elegant place, so we were trying to be a little bit, less messy than we normally are when we eat. And yeah, it was just challenging to eat. The smoked cream was delicious. It was very subtly smoky. It was really, really nice. The strawberries, it's a little bit late in the season for strawberries, so I just think this would have been much better 2 months ago when Harry's berries were like in full swing. Now they're kind of winding down, and and the white chocolate I thought was a bit too big, and it got kind of stuck in my teeth. So I think they still need to work on this one a little bit, but that's kind of part of the game. You got, as a new restaurant, you bring out these dishes, you're getting feedback. We gave them our feedback on it, and I think that the team even agrees this might not be the best plate for this. Maybe they change that around. Maybe they like spread it out a little bit more, change the fruit out once the strawberries stop being good. I would not order it again, but I think if they clean up some of the misses on it, I would, because I love strawberries and cream, and I love cream. And the smoked cream was my favorite part of it.
Me too.
It was awesome.
Yeah. On to our last dessert, the ode to DDL. I love dulce de leche, always have. So this is actually a souffle, a dulce de leche souffle that was topped with a house-made dulce de leche ice cream. Such a fun dessert. It was sweet, but you could really taste the dulce de leche, like that nice dark caramel flavor all the way through it, which obviously is the goal of it.
Let me say though, the souffle itself was perfectly executed. It was delicious. It rose. It was light and airy and unctuous, and that deep caramel flavor. The ice cream was also extremely creamy and delicious, and it fortified that dulce de leche flavor profile that they were going for. It's an ode to it.
Yeah.
They delivered on that for sure.
Yeah, I agree. It's a really accurate name for it.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, anyone who would put an ode to dulce de leche on their menu is my kind of people.
Yeah, hands down, for sure. I don't know if there's a restaurant in the Valley that has better service.
Not that we've been to.
Correct.
And we've been to a lot.
We have. Maybe like one of the sushi spots like Sushi Note. I haven't been there. I'm sure the service there is spectacular. But the level of attention to detail in the hospitality was very apparent. The training that this staff went through was extensive, and you noticed they spent 2 full weeks training their entire staff for this opening. The staff were knowledgeable, they were in sync, they were clearing our things seamlessly and swiftly. with as little intrusion as possible. Our waters were always filled, but it never really annoyed me like it usually does, where, they filled it so, discreetly. They did the napkin fold thing when we came back from the bathroom. Everyone's pretty much doing that. It's a standard. But these other little details that I noticed set them apart. I thought the service here was spectacular.
And part of the reason the water was so unobtrusive, the pitchers that they had were so very smooth pouring.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't hear that kind of like water sound going up the glass
That's
as
right.
it filled.
That's
so
right.
they were able to be kind of incognito with that.
You mentioned earlier that one of the chefs, Juana from Uruguay, she is the one who designed everything and made all these choices. So it just really goes to show that, she's really thinking about the comfort of the guest and what our experience is going to be. They don't want to take away anything from us enjoying the food and the drinks that they're trying to showcase. That's what hospitality is. Make them feel as comfortable as possible right when they get in the door and stay at that level the entire time while they're enjoying their meal. Like, that is true hospitality.
And everyone said welcome when we came in, and it didn't feel like, they were ordered to. It felt authentic. It felt real from them.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Yeah. Well, and then even the chefs, we got to meet both chefs through different dishes, and they also were really, really nice and they just seemed like normal people.
They seemed like they were there because they really want to please everyone that comes in to enjoy. Like, they are being so welcoming and warm. The staff, they all looked happy. They all looked energetic and excited for you to be there. They're excited that you're there. They seem proud of what they were doing. They seem proud of the work and the execution and the vision that the chef owners are trying to show. That was really nice. I can't wait to go back.
And it's funny because I feel like we should be welcoming them to the neighborhood, but instead they're welcoming us.
Right.
It was just kind of backwards, but nice.
It's crazy that these two chefs that are from South America and have pretty much only worked in Europe and South America, this is their first restaurant together. Studio City is where they chose. They clearly had some investors that found them and gave them a runway and a blank check and like, build your dream.
Yeah.
Go. And they're doing it. Like, this as the opening salvo of what they're trying to accomplish. Imagine where they're going to be a year from now, 2 years from now, if this is the level. There were some misses tonight. It wasn't a perfect meal. It wasn't the best meal we've had in Los Angeles. And from a 30-day-old restaurant, this is a very impressive beginning.
I think they've done an incredible job.
Yeah. With that being said, let's get to the verdict.
Our verdict for Alto and Studio City is 3 taste buds.
We were kind of mulling about giving it a 3 or a 4. There were a couple misses in our meal with the dishes that stopped us from giving it a 4. Everything that we had was really, really good. There were a couple of like truly standout dishes. But I think that they're a little too young still to get that 4. I think if we come back a year from now, this might turn into a 4.
I could see that. Absolutely. Unfortunately, there are just some little things that they need to clean up, and then we can come back and see how they did.
Yeah. I can't wait to see this restaurant grow and get to know the neighborhood and for the neighborhood to get to know them. Ventura Boulevard is a great place to be. There's tons of foot traffic. They're going to have business. This type of service and dining level experience, there's not a lot of competition for them.
Yeah.
I think they're going to do well. I think they are worth the trek. If you are coming from the east side, the west side, come to the valley. See what we're all about. there's good restaurants here.
Yeah, and it's right off the freeway.
Yeah. Alto, welcome to the neighborhood. Welcome to the valley. Come try it. You will be so pleased. Until next time, guys.
Bye.